Welcome, everybody, to the Waiver Watch draft for Week 7. This is the CFF list, Waiver Watch. I'm Jay Mill. I've got my partner, Willie B, as usual. And we've got a special guest this week. He's made time in between the 20 podcasts or so that I think he's done over the course of time. We got our guy, Nino Brown. We're going to get a bigger introduction from him a little bit later, find out everything he's been up to and what he thought about the college football weekend this past week. A lot of exciting games if you managed to make it up until 2:30 in the morning Eastern time for that USC Arizona spectacular finish. But in the meantime, as usual, we are going to jump right into last week's results. Willie, I know we both, I don't know if it's a first, but I know it's the first time this year we both managed to squeak in scores over 100 again. How do you feel about how everything went down this weekend?
I feel real good. I wish we had gotten there a little earlier in the season, but better late than never. So if we go back and look, I don't think we've both had over 100 before. If I'm looking through, I don't see us both ever having over 100. So
It's usually
feel pretty good that we got that
in
done.
the 90s and things like that, or typically one of us will get close to 100, and the other might kind of linger behind or lag behind in the 80s or 90s. But this was I think a really good showing for the CFF list team this week. Maybe this week a little different. I'll take the first half, run through Justin's picks and my picks, and then we'll let you kind of speak on your picks and Dorian's picks and what worked and what didn't for everybody and who stood out. To start, Justin, our guy over there at Volume Pigs, he only ended up with 74.9, and we like to talk about the goal of hitting that 90-point barrier, which hopefully comes from a 20-point quarterback, 15-point running backs and receivers, and a 10-point tight end. So if you look down his board, he did really hit in almost every single position except for quarterback, and he had 1 week running back. But, 4 out of his 6 guys were right there where you want them to be. He had an exceptional pick at tight end with Mitchell Evans. Both of his wide receivers came through. We joked about Andrew Armstrong from Arkansas being Mr. Consistency, always being guaranteed to get you 17 or 18 points. And, for rounding up here, Armstrong came through with another 17 points. Watkins is also showing now to be the consistent guy at Ole Miss. So that was a good pick. Malik Jackson, again, not spectacular, but if you had a hole to fill, I don't think you'd be too disappointed in the 14 points that he might have gotten you. But really, where he could have ended up, kind of getting close to us was at quarterback. We sent out some warnings, later in the week in our best and worst predictions with Rayner from Arkansas State, and the fact that he was playing a really, really stout Troy defense who had knocked Granger out of the top 12 quarterbacks the week before. And I think now you're going to see the same thing happen. Unfortunately, he took a shot, played Rayner, even though we all knew Troy was a tough defense, which only landed him 6.7. But otherwise, a solid showing by Justin. We appreciate him coming on. Volume Pigs is all ingrained in our terminology now. And we hope to have him back, some other point. As far as my team, I couldn't be happier. I think I'm going on, back like 3 weeks in a row over 100. I think I had 139 2 weeks ago in the 120s, maybe last week, maybe lower than that, but definitely over 100. So I'm back in the 130s, led by the tight end, David Martin Robinson, who I had mentioned, looked like he was getting back on track with an 11-point game the week before, and he didn't let us down. He was the top scoring tight end of the weekend with 31.2. McAllister from Boise State also was definitely a standout with the second best wide receiver performance among all the waiver picks with 28. Sean Atkins, at USF got me 17-7. It definitely seems to be the USF wide receiver one. And I was really happy with Tyree Shelton. Got to watch that game, as many of you might have done as well with the weeknight game. getting the 25 points and really seemed like he was the only back in the backfield for most of that game. And Chandler Rogers, at North Texas, that offense is, starting to be what we thought it would be, there. So I had one miss, which was Terrion Stewart. He ended up, kind of dropping from 26 to 8 carries, only had about 60 yards. I think that's where his 6 points came from, was really just the 60 yards. So he had a great yards per carry average. He just didn't get enough to make a difference. So that was a little bit disappointing. I know we picked him up in the Kings Classic, maybe to stash on the bench. So that's going to be a debate that Willie and I have, is if we should keep him. By the way, we did move to 6-0. Very proud about that. And on that note, Willie, I'll let you just talk about your picks and Dorian's picks and how they did.
All right. So just to bring you down just a notch, you're over 100 3 out of 4 weeks. Week 5, you dipped to 75 points. But anyway,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not used to your color coding, so I'm gonna get with that in just a sec. But
green is good. Green is good. Red is bad. Yeah.
Yeah, Jacob Kabodi. I watched that game. He let me down a little bit, and then I did not expect David Martin Robinson, your tight end, to score 30. Otherwise, I think our scores would have been a little bit closer. There's always going to be one guy that doesn't perform the way you want him to perform. Otherwise, you're probably going to be close to the record as far as points. So, not really upset with any of that. Jalen Gill, a little bit of a disappointment, but we like I say, we were watching that game because we were going against Mickey Keene. But yeah, Fresno, they really weren't doing as well as I thought they would do against Wyoming. Wyoming surprised them big time.
Yeah, Wyoming, they look like the real deal. If anybody missed that Wyoming-Fresno game, I really thought Wyoming was kind of the fluke team there, and they proved me wrong. They put one on Fresno. They were the real deal.
Yeah, and I think we talked about, in our best worst, that we figured that Holden Willis would be in the top 12 or top 16 tight ends going forward, and he's proved that he's probably going to stay there for a while with his 13.7.
Yeah, and he's a really small guy. If anybody's kind of missing, like, you can't watch every game, so we like to get the notes in where we might have been able to see a player more up close. But yeah, Holden Willis really is the epitome of that hybrid tight end wide receiver who, I don't know if he's even really lining up at tight end. So he's kind of a gimme there at tight end as a really skinny tight end that I don't know, if he's capable of blocking at all. He looked like he was barely over 210 pounds to me when I saw him in that game. But, that's the cheat code move for this year is he wasn't a big name. He's not throwing out, 30-point games. But, Willis, we've talked all year about how the tight ends just continue to disappoint in the top 12, but he's going to be another guy who 3 weeks in a row has gotten into double digits, which is really hard to find this year with Holden Willis.
Yeah, I'll look at that from when we do our next show and get some position identity for him. But he's probably is that true 6'4". That's why he's so lanky, I guess, because I think they said he was over 200 something pounds. But yeah, he is thin, that's for sure. So moving on to Dorian, I mean he took a few chances. Obviously, Latrell Jones, no one had heard of him. At least I hadn't. And so he only got 4.3 out of him. Lewis Bond, I figured they'd probably do a little bit, but, Boston College is also hit and miss. And I tend to steer away from these military schools when playing up against them because you just never know what's going to happen.
We haven't really done this before, but I know since we'll give everyone Nino's background a little bit more, but I'm going to bring him in a little earlier than expected because he is our resident Boston College expert. Yeah, what's going on? That's probably the most disappointing pick of last week is, Dorian was really high on Lewis Bond based on what had happened. He thought O'Keefe was hurt. Yeah, what can you tell us what's going on there with the receivers at Boston College? Or are they just running the ball too much? Because it looked like they were a military school the way they were running the ball.
So my what I'm getting from it is they made that switch early, week 1 after 8 pass attempts. They went from Moorhead to Castellanos. But the thing that they haven't done is they haven't scaled back the offense to fit the scheme that Castellanos is. Yeah, he's great on the ground. He was the number 1 QB in that class running wise. But you can't have wide receivers running 35-yard out routes and wheel routes when the guy can only throw the ball in the intermediate and short route. So they need to switch what they're doing. That's the reason why Bond has kind of excelled because he's already been stated on film saying, I tell Castellanos when nobody else is open, I'm open. He's the only guy out there really adjusting to it and coming back, knowing I can't run 20-yard outs every time. I got to be there, be open for my QB.
Yeah, and actually, now that I'm thinking back to the game, they did pretty much play that game in a monsoon.
Yeah.
So I guess we might give Dorian a pass for Bond, because like I think there were torrential downpours in that Army game, and that was a heck of a comeback by Boston College. But sorry to interrupt, Willie. I'll let you get.
You're fine. But I mean, like I said, he took a few chances, and he's a little bit ahead of the curve on a few things. But kind of like when I tend to be that way also. I'm looking maybe 2 or 3 weeks ahead. And so maybe that's where he was with this, because, having 4 guys, under 7, obviously that's a recipe for disaster. I did not think that Jacques Stewart would, perform as poorly as he did against UMass, but it is what it is. Right. I did not think that Zeno would have the game that he had, so I will give him props on that. Zeno had 30. So it's going to happen, but he didn't get the worst of the season, so
And I know I know he was also he was real nervous about that too. I know he had to get out of the 40s to not be the worst, and then actually he ended up passing up the second worst, so like getting out of the 50s. So like he was just happy he didn't end up in the 40s or the 50s at the end, and Zeno came through on him with that. I don't know if anybody saw that score. That was a 56-35 shootout against USF. Actually, I think they were up by even more than that at one point. USF tried to make a last-minute push to make it respectable. But I know UAB has really surprised me. You kind of think of Trent Dilfer's pro years and kind of how boring he was as a quarterback. For some reason, I just expected that from this team, but they're putting up points at UAB. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch them. I just want to see. I see the highlights of him and his, what he did, his antics on the sideline and that kind of thing. I just want to know how often that's happening. Right. Because I've never responded well to people like that. I used to coach high school for over a decade, but and I've lit into a kid, but never a coach like that. I mean, some of the stuff that he does is embarrassing, and so I just want to see how much of that goes on week in and week out.
Yeah, it's actually they're a lot better than I thought they would be. So maybe it's working. I feel like he wants to jump in, so I want to get the full intro of Nino in so that he can feel free to speak at will here. But it would be not kind of us to at least give a proper introduction to the man, the myth, the legend, Nino Brown, who burst onto the scene last year, the CFF scene. Like I said, I think there's 10 podcasts I've seen him affiliated with over the course of the year. He's been everywhere. Right now, he's with the CFB Nation. That's at the CFB Nation. On his personal Twitter, he's got a couple underscores, Nino Brown, a couple more underscores. And I always wanted to ask him, like, is the government name going to always be a secret, or is Nino Brown just like the new official name all across the board here for everybody?
No, Nino Brown is just the handle. I've been running with it, but the government name is Nino Caroselli. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the Nino is real. Okay, yeah. We're not just taking New Jack City, and you didn't just love the movie and
no.
Take the Nino
My pops
Brown.
was a big fan of kind of like amateur boxing. There was a boxer that he really liked, is Nino Bonavenuti, and obviously that's an Italian name. He's Italian. My mother was Portuguese, so I got that's why I talk with my hands a lot. Between the Portuguese and Italian side. But Nino Brown just the handle. I've been running with it from when I first got on Twitter. I figured I might as well just write it out.
Okay, all right. Well, I liked it. At least the Nino is still real.
50-50 real.
Good. Well, all right. Well, yeah. Besides, you work. Tell people what you're doing at the CFB Nation, and how that's expanded over the past year, and you kind of what you do on a week to week, and like the bigger picture goals of you that you guys have. I know you've made it out to a couple of games to do some real scouting, and you're getting your media passes and really kind of taking everything serious. But what's the big picture?
The big picture is we want to be one of the top college football podcasts out there. We want to be able to do. We want to be in-house at games, get that insight, be able to not play by play, but just break it down for you guys and inside information. We were at Michigan week 1. I've been at Boston College. I was at Brown and Syracuse. We've had guys at Clemson. We're going to be at the Army Navy game at Gillette this year. I'm going to be at the Arizona State Oregon game later on in November. We just got my buddy KT was at Virginia Tech, so we're just kind of getting our feet wet here and there. A lot of the bigger, SEC kind of told us to kick rocks at first, but now we're getting in there. We got credentials at Vandy, so things are starting to expand. Every week we give you like overreaction Mondays where we're breaking down things that are we overreacting about? Or are we not overreacting about? Obviously, the spread will probably be one of them we're going to be talking about. But we got our guy Dino and Boomer. They do team-based shows. So we got the Hawks Nest with Dino, and we got the Sooner Nation going on with Jared. So we're just touching things on, and as we we grow, maybe we'll be able to take on more people and do more. But right now, we're just trying to kick college football's door down.
Yeah, and I don't want to dwell on the next part of this too much because it's not our topic, but you also do a lot of NFL stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
right?
I was previously with Total to Title. Shout out to them. They're a great, NFL fantasy football podcast and website. Go check them out. But I just started my own thing with a couple guys, Boomer and my guy Russ. We're doing it's called FFB Nation, so Fantasy Football Nation. It's just started growing. You can catch that on the Twitter and on the YouTube, same handle, FFB Nation. And we got an IDP show on there. We're going to be doing kind of like individual player fantasy guys that you want to get for the long run in Dynasty. And but we're just growing. We're getting out there.
Yeah, when did you you like all of us? You've probably been playing NFL for a long time. But when did you dive into the CFF side of things?
I've been a fan of college football for a long time. I just never had a chance to kind of like dive into it. So it's probably been like 3 years. I've been like really diving into it. NFL. I've been in NFL fantasy. No joke. I mean, I'm 40. I'm going to be 43 this year. Literally, the first league I was in, we had the newspaper still. Like, it was online, but the stats weren't updated like it was. We still had AOL at that time. Right. So you were going to Monday paper, and getting them stats, and everybody in your league was like calling you, "What's good, buddy? Who's winning this week?" It's like, "Hey, you want to do it?"
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a fun story. I think a lot of us in this kind of age group have to tell the youngsters. Like, we've probably got 10 years on you, but. Yeah, we started our league as seniors in high school in 1989. I just happened to see a magazine in the store and was like, wow, this looks pretty cool. So it was like me and Willie and my mom and one other friend. There were 4 of us. And, to make it an 8-team league, like we each drafted an NFC and an AFC team to start. And then, that league is our home league to this day with like 16 owners. And we added, 3 IDP players years ago before a lot of people were doing that. And, we still keep kind of some of our old classic rules to kind of make it more of a little bit of a throwback league. We haven't really changed our scoring system. We've still got ranges and more points for longer touchdowns and some things that are a little different. But, that's the fun of fantasy is you can apply any of the scoring rules you want. And, since this is the original, I agree with Willie, who is kind of a stickler about making sure we keep it the way it was from the beginning, and kind of like I said, more of a throwback league, but it's still fun, and that's still the one that I look forward to the most. I think in the
OG side, right?
Exactly.
He just what he means is, I'll never let that league be one that you're, consistently scoring 200 points a week. That's just not going to happen, right?
So. All right. Without further ado, I think we're gonna let's get into this draft and see what Nino's thinking about. But I'm gonna kick it off. And you know what? I knew I had the first pick for about an hour now, and I hadn't even thought about who I was going to go with first here from a strategic standpoint. It's an interesting week where we've been talking about how difficult it is to find running backs, and that's a little bit true still. I would love to go quarterback, but there's more than enough for me to get at least one of the 3 that I like. So I think I'm going to go with the guy that I had last week and, got me up to that 130 week. I'm going to go Eric McAllister from Boise State, primarily because I just love the ranking Fantrax is showing me of Colorado State's performance against CFF wide receivers, which was 133rd last night. Also, I know McAllister was 23% rostered last night. I don't know if that's changed or when they do their updates, but as far as I know, I'm legal with my Eric McAllister pick, the guy from Boise. He's averaging 18.9. He's had 3 games over 20 in the last 3 out of the 4, including 32.3 2 weeks ago and 28 yesterday, which again was one of my star players. So, as they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm going to go Eric McAllister again on the J Mill waiver watch roster.
All right. Let me go back and check just one thing here because
he's looking for percentage.
Make sure I'm legal.
Yeah. Let me make sure you are legal. But yeah, you are. You're good. You're good.
What did he? I'm curious if it changed overnight. He was 23 last night. What is it?
Yeah, he's at 24 right now. So
okay, yeah. So they do. There is some change. I've always wondered like if they have like real live updates on that, or if there's like an overnight update.
That's for their changed since 11 o'clock when I did my notes because he was still at the same from last night.
23. Yeah. Right. So maybe they do like a late morning update, on Sundays. But we'll keep an eye on that. That's interesting. All right, Willie. Let's see who you got. Which direction you're going to go?
All right. Yeah, I wasn't too keen on grabbing running backs early, so
okay.
I'm gonna stick with what you're doing. I'm gonna go with the guy I had last week. We're gonna go Jalen Royals, Utah State.
Look at you guys already sniping.
So,
don't worry, Nino. You're still gonna get the back-to-back picks to make up for all this.
So Royals is actually he's up 1%. So he was at 20. So he's at 28 right now, and so he was up from 1% last week. 1%. So actually, people listened. Yeah, no, I'm talking about last week. As far as he rose up. So they have Fresno State, who's 25th. To me, I don't care at this point right now. I mean, he's as far as Royals is concerned. I mean, the kid. I mean. Yep. 13.9, 15.2, 12.7, the 43.5, and then last night 32. So, we're gonna stick with him. Right now, to me, it doesn't matter who the opponent is. I think he's going to do just fine. Okay.
He's 11th, right? All right. In fantasy for wide receivers overall.
Sounds about right.
Yep, I think he is. Let me get this.
And under 30% owned is absolute travesty.
Yeah.
Right.
I used the word sinful for a couple guys last week. There are guys like up in the top 20 that were like 2% owned that we were grabbing last week, which like I said was like Sean Atkins, the receiver from USF, was one of them. Like he was 1% or 2% owned going into last week.
Crazy.
Yeah, he's actually he's 19th now, but yeah, I agree with you. I mean, 21 points a game and he's 28% owned. I mean, that's insane to me.
In the people's defense, let's not forget, like he was playing on the team with Terrell Vaughn, who up until 2 weeks ago was the most targeted receiver, and I think everybody just thought it was going to be a one pony show there. But I think what's happened is like Terrell Vaughn started getting so much attention, it's opened things up for Royals. They both got it yesterday. They both had really big games yesterday. So, if this can be a 2-receiver team doing what they're doing, it's Utah State's. They looked really good against Colorado State. So, part of that is probably the emergence of Royals, giving them a little bit of balance. And you can't just lock down Vaughn now and feel like you're going to get away with shutting them down.
I think us three could look good against Colorado State right now. In the past game, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think their Super Bowl was Colorado, and then after that, they ran out of gas quick. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty pitiful of them last night. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and just so people know, since we're just doing 3 this week and not 4, we're gonna let Nino take his back-to-back picks, then come back to Willie and myself, and then kind of just do a regular order from that point on. So yeah, we're gonna give Nino the benefit of 2 picks since he had to go last, and then back to Willie. And then me. So Nino, what do you got?
My top 2 guys in my wide receiver room off the board. So I feel like if I don't take one now, follow the script here, I might be left in the dust in the wide receiver room. I'm gonna take a guy from a team that I've been all about all year, and I think what the head coach is doing over there in G.J. Kine is unbelievable. Give me Joey Herbert, Dirty Herbert from Texas State. It's 22%, but he's had 3 straight games with a touchdown, 9+ targets in three straight games, and he's had 27 fantasy points in back-to-back games. And he's facing Loyola Marymount, and they're 105th.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Is it Louisiana Monroe? I'm sorry, Louisiana Monroe. Yeah,
Okay,
Louisiana
okay.
Monroe, and they're 105th against the pass. So I'm gonna go with Dirty Herbert here.
Yeah. Did I spell it right?
I think it's EBE.
H-E-B-E?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll check that. But Texas State,
Texas
right?
State,
It's
yep.
Texas State?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a big week this week, too. What do you have this week, Nino? Do
I
you know?
believe. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. I remember him standing out on – I feel like somebody had it. No, nobody had him in the waiver.
He had 27.2 this week, and he had 28.6 the week before, and then 24 3 weeks ago. So he's
consistency there.
Absolutely, he is.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I think I knew that because I played against him in a league where I almost lost, but I had a good week overall, so I don't think it ended up hurting me. But
and he was third on my list, Nino. Right. So that's a good thing you did grab him.
He was third on my list as well. So I'm glad I'm playing at the same level as the big dogs. But I'm not going to take any chances. I'm going back to back, and I'm in the same room with you guys. I think the quarterbacks in this week kind of all in this. The top 4 guys are kind of in the same grouping against like competition they're playing and everything like that. So I think we can all get a guy. So. I'm going to stay in the wide receiver department, and I'm going to give you a kid that I'm saying as a freshman is quarterback proof. Okay. Give me the Wolfpack true freshman wide receiver, Kevin Concepcion. It don't matter if it's, if it's MJ Morris or if it's Armstrong, this kid gets it done. He's shifty. He once he gets open in the open field, he can just take the top off the ball. And he got 14 targets from a new quarterback last week. And this, first start this season, that seems to me that like Concepcion's already been that security blanket for MJ Morris. So give me Concepcion.
Right. No, that's funny. You just got even now because he was my next receiver. So what's funny, you got sniped twice. You just took Willie's next receiver and you just took mine. So you got payback with the back-to-back picks. That's how it's supposed to work in that.
All right, it worked out well. Good.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I watched him kind of tear up Marshall yesterday. Even though my son's gone, I still have to kind of turn on the Marshall game, put it on a bigger screen than most people. And he lived up to the billing that he had, with the noise he was making in camp as a true freshman. It seems like when a true freshman starts, like my feeling is like they can only get better as the season progresses. And as we approach the midway point of the season, like he's getting into form right now. I think he's getting some of his man strength and, figuring out what the guys older than him do and, how to work around that. And he looks like he belongs. And the fact that it's a new quarterback and he got the most targets he's gotten all season, I like the thinking there too, Nino. It looks like MJ Morris has found his go-to guy and they're also, they handed the ball off to him a time or two, if I remember right. So he's going to be the guy there for the next couple of years. And this week in particular, this week is when you really need him to be a guy.
Well, my question is, and I'm not saying that Duke is the defense that Louisville is. Is he going to take that dip that he did against Louisville when he had 1.7? So I guess where you're not concerned about that.
This is where I'm not concerned about it, is because of MJ Morris's mobility and he can throw in the run, where Armstrong is just sitting in the pocket. He's not really that mobile guy that has the big arm on the run. Right. MJ can throw on the run, and his athleticism is better than Armstrong's. I know Armstrong with the nine is in his bag, but he was only in his bag for 2 games, and then he kind of fell out of that bag after that. So MJ, I thought MJ was going to be the QB for them before Armstrong came there in the portal. I liked what he did in those last 4 games, 5 games last year. I just think the athleticism and him being able to make sure defenses can't, sit and just stack the box and try to pressure him. He can roll out. They're going to have to be aware of that. And if you start moving guys in that coverage scheme around to make up for that QB, Concepcion only needs second and a half to get space. And that dude's going to be able to get – he can get them short 5-yard outs that can turn to 20. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And look, let's have fun with this. We can speculate all we want. Let's just say, like, Armstrong is probably on the bench because he wasn't able to get Concepcion the ball against Louisville. So they're like, hey, you know what? You're not getting the ball to the guy we need to get the ball to. You're going to the bench.
Yeah, that part is true. I got you. I see you there.
Yeah. All right, Willie, we're coming back to you, and then we'll get to back up here. I got to figure out how I'm going to do it.
This is it's getting really tough here. Only because the later we get, and I know we were talking about Jalen Royals and that percentage, but I mean it gets tight. Oh, yeah. But we have another guy here that is 28% owned, and let me make sure. Yep, because that's still there. But we're going to go Tyree. Whoops, let me make sure that got to get Jeremy's screen in here. We're going to go Tyree Shelton from Louisiana Tech. Are
you throwing him in at receiver?
Actually, no. We're going to throw him at running back.
Okay, because he's dual eligibility, which is a nice bonus.
Yeah,
we're going running back here
running
for
back,
him.
What, last 3 weeks straight?
Yeah, he's definitely a real life running back. But if you're in those leagues that allow multiple positions, I heard Jared mention this, so I'll give him credit. Especially if you're in a league that does not use PPR, that's a great place to sneak Shelton in as a wide receiver if you're able to, because those running backs can be a little bit more beneficial in the non-PPR leagues. So if you can slide a running back into your receiver slot there, that's a good little even sneakier move and way to utilize that dual eligibility. But Willie's going to be a gentleman and play him where he belongs, which is the running back position.
Well, and that's only because my running back list has just dwindled some. I've had him as a wide receiver as far as a pickup is concerned the last 4 weeks, and just haven't had to use it. But if you can put him at wide receiver, I would be doing it. Yeah, if you have the running back depth.
Yeah, and he looked good, and just again, based on being able to watch that game as a weekday game, now that he's healthy, and some other guys are still banged up there at the Louisiana Tech, which was a mess in the first 3 weeks. It looks like it's his spot. He's running back one for sure, where it was really confusing in the first few weeks. He's locked it down and got that 24 points for me. So, yeah, you did take my first running back off the board, and I don't get back-to-back picks here. Now we're just going to go straight order. So I've got to be a little bit careful how I do this. But there's a guy I was thinking about taking last week. I'm still excited about him. He's not a team you think you would be taking running backs from this year because you want him to throw the ball quite a bit. I accidentally cut and paste my notes on him and sent him to Nino on Twitter.
On my list too.
To the link here. Yeah. But I'm going to go with North Texas running back Ayo Adeyi. That sounded pretty good the way I said it. I don't know if that's how you do say it, but I'm going to go with Ayo Adeyi. It's another situation where you just had no idea who running back one was going to be when the season started. Even through the first couple of weeks of the season, it was a little foggy. But just like Louisiana Tech has cleared up, this seems to be your guy. He's had 19, 13, and 14 carries the last 3 weeks. More impressively, he's gotten over 100 yards in these last 3 weeks with those carries, which isn't a ton, but it's enough to make you feel good when a guy's averaging 15 or 16. So even though he's only averaging 13.1 for the season, the last 3 weeks really tell the story for him, where he's had 29, 14, and 19 points. So that's going to be my guy there at running back, which, again, it's getting pretty slim at running back as far as who you can pick up on the waiver wire. So you got to find these guys that have gotten their opportunities because of some injuries and just basically proving themselves as the better running back, that the team's going to rely on. And don't be afraid here. Just like Louisiana Tech, is probably going to pass the ball a little bit more. I think, they still got to, keep people on their toes. So these guys, Shelton and Adeyi are getting their chances. And then, Nino, it makes me feel good. You had him on the list also. I got another
you got another
snipe
in. I feel like Willie's going to snipe me here. And I'm a little nervous because he was my second guy on the board. And I was hoping you guys didn't like him, and I've been watching him for a while.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Let's see what happens here.
All right. So I took the number one guy on my list. I'm pretty sure Nino's going to take a running back. So let me go ahead and get my second one now. And he they had a bye this week, so we didn't get to see him. But the last time he played, he took a little bit of dip. But I think that with a week of preparation, they're going to be just fine. We're going to go Jaden Thomas, UNLV. They have Nevada this week.
Okay.
He is still averaging 15 and a half points a game. I'm hoping that he can bounce back to the game that they had against UTEP when he had 37.4. I mean, he's consistently in the last 3 games, 13 carries, and then 12 right before the bye. So there was another guy I was going to take, but I'm going to let Nino have one of them.
So. All right, so you have done the smart thing and locked down your running back room early, since even though we went wide receiver early, I think we were looking at the bigger potential for big game breakers. But technically, running back probably is the most difficult position to fill. It's just there's not enough game breakers for you to feel like you needed to take the early chance on. Is the way I'm looking at probably everybody's point of view here.
Right. So, I mean, I just went ahead and just said, okay, I'm going to stick with my list. Once we wrap up, there might be a guy who's left over that I'm thinking I probably should have taken, but I put Thomas up here for a reason, and hopefully it wasn't just because he was under the 30%. So
yeah, you never want it to be just because they're available. Yeah,
exactly.
So
right. All right. Yeah. So on you, Nino. You only get one this time, and then it's coming back to me.
I had a guy on here that was at the threshold, and I know Willie would have said not today. So Dylan Johnson,
Okay.
Dylan Johnson. All right, he's at 30.
Okay.
They just started using him in the run game last week. Got a big game against Oregon this week. I think his style, where he's got the hands and the pass catch capability, is going to play a big role for them. I think he could have a big game, but he's no good. So I'm going to go with a guy that committed in the portal to BC early, right, and then decommitted and decided he wanted to become a Hokie. And it took a little bit in the first couple of weeks here, but it seems the last 4 he's kind of put it on. I'm going to go with Basil Tutin. He was last year he played for North Carolina A&T, had a good year. This year he's got I'm going to go last 4 weeks. He had 40, 18, 24. What is it? What did he have? He had 10, 18, 24, and 15. I'll take that. He's getting.
Yeah, he's been consistent. He's not, from what I remember, and Willie and I both almost took him last week, I believe. He's just been pretty consistent, even with kind of the minimum threshold of carries you want in a guy. But he's one of those guys that's making the most out of the carries.
He's getting at least 5 to 6 targets per game, and he's got 4 receptions in the last 3 games. So there's extra points there in the PPR side of it. So I'll take him. I know he's under that 20% rostered, so it's kind of like a dot. But I'm starting to see production going forward in the last couple of weeks. So I think this is going to be a big game for him.
I like it. It's again, I stopped after I wrote his name and who he's playing, because I really thought Willie was going to take him. Willie had kind of hinted to me last night that might be one of his guys this week. So I just stopped taking notes on his numbers and everything, because I was like, Willie's going to get him and he can talk about it. But Nino's grabbed him, and Willie B decided to go with Jaden Thomas. But I didn't know he was a BC commit. So
he committed early and then decommitted. It seems to be the vibe right now with Boston College. A lot of decommits going on.
Right.
Yeah, he was third. He was third on my list, and I thought about taking him only because he does have a lot more consistency than Jaden Thomas does. But I like the matchup that Thomas has against Nevada a little bit better.
Okay, wow. So we got 2 running back spots open. It's on me. All the quarterbacks and all the tight ends are there. So let's see. There's 3 tight ends I like. So I've got 4 on my list. I'm gonna stay away again from tight ends and quarterbacks, because I like all 3 or 4 on my list there. Wide receiver. That's interesting. And we've got 2 of both left that will be taken, 1 from each of you. So who will I steal a guy from this round? You know what? Let me get that other running back spot out of the way. I'm going to go with a guy who I've been seeing hover around, my waiver watch list, but I haven't necessarily thrown him on there, even in the top 6 or top 8. But he's sticking around enough to make me think, okay, he's we keep using the word, he's going to be consistent, and that's Ron Cook from Buffalo. He's averaging 15, but again, looking at his last 4, so that's when you kind of see the trends happening. After those first couple of weeks, he's averaging 18.6 in his last 4. He's also had 2 touchdowns in 2 of his last 3 games. Multiple touchdown games in 2 of the last 3 weeks, including this week. So they're playing Bowling Green, not a powerhouse in terms of their defense, and he seems to be the guy they're leaning on a little bit more. I think Washington's the other guy that people stayed away from that backfield. They just weren't sure again, kind of who was going to shake out as the number 1 guy. But I'm going to give Ron Cook the nod, just like Buffalo is, and make him my other starter here this week, going against Bowling Green. And sorry, Willie, I didn't note his percentage, but he should. I think he's
18%.
Yeah, last night I had him at 7 for some reason, but
okay.
Maybe that was just nope. He's still at 7.
Okay, all right, yeah. So he's a guy again. He's the 18.6 over the last 4 weeks is something. If he can get 18 this week, I'll be really happy in this draft. So.
Yeah, I know with that injury, I mean, he was. I had him 4th. I really still am leery with Buffalo, but he has been, like I said, one like you said, one of those guys who is consistent. So
he's hovered around the list long enough. Let me just go ahead and take it.
There you go. Yep. All right, so I'm going to have to go ahead and take this guy only because I know J-Mill still needs another wide receiver. I'm going to let you take your Mr. Consistent, and then I had a question teasing, do you think he'll be consistent against Alabama later? So I'm going to let you have that guy, but okay. I'm going to take Kyle Williams from Washington State.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they have Arizona this week. We saw what happened last night.
Yeah.
So
how'd he do yesterday? I didn't actually. He wasn't on my radar yesterday.
Cam Ward didn't do too well. I think Cam Ward took his name out of the Heisman.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Cam Ward had the 3 points.
He took his name out of the Heisman in that one.
Yeah,
he replaced.
Exactly. That was his Heisman moment. That drive, man. If they can run the table and be in the playoff and in that the natty conversation,
right?
He's got to be in that talk for,
Yeah, and there's we're jumping around here, but we forgot to kind of get into some of our moments in the beginning. But that rematch is looming already. I think the Texas Oklahoma, now that they don't have divisions, like that kind of works out perfect as a potential final Big 12 championship.
Close it out, right?
Would be in. Yeah. That's only. It sounds like a storybook, but that's how it should finish. So, all right.
But to answer your question, though, he had 16.4 yesterday. Okay. So he hit 8 for 85. He didn't have his touchdown, which this is his first game that he did not have a score. So that's why that to me is why that number dipped. So we'll see if they can bounce back against Arizona. He can get back into the end zone. If he does, then I would probably say he's going to get me 20 points, that's what you want anyway. So
and that's a stat line I love. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Like when you can get the receivers and even the tight ends that are getting you significant points without a touchdown. The touchdown is then the gravy. So to get 16 points without a touchdown is pretty impressive. It just shows he's still the guy, that they're going to be looking for. So, 8 for 80. Who cares about the yards per catch? You still got 8 points of yards and 8 points for catches. Nice. We got Nino. Nino, you're in a beneficial situation here of not to kind of tip strategy here, but like you don't have to take a running back because everybody's got them. So you could break out the quarterback or tight ends.
I need a pick.
I don't need to go running back like you said. I think I'm going to go in the quarterback department here. Because there's 2 guys that are close. I know you guys both like Zeno. Well, I don't know if Willie likes Zeno, but we talked about Zeno a little bit.
I think he's a safe pick.
I'm gonna go with a guy that I think is a super safe pick because their defense has kind of been terrible. I'm gonna go with Diego Pavia, New Mexico State.
That's the one. That's the one.
No.
That's the you sniped me. You sniped me.
That was his guy.
24 points in the last 4 to 5 fantasies. He's got 2 touchdowns in 4 of the last 5 in the same span, and he's getting Sam Houston, who's 108th overall defensively against the pass. It's only 20% owned. I'll take him. I know we got a little slack for his urination incident on the logo last week, but he peed on.
I missed that. Give us that story real quick.
Yeah, so he peed on whoever they played, not this week, the week prior, whoever they played. I think it was like a rival. He went to the logo and like the game practice on Friday and pissed on the logo. And somebody caught it on camera and put it on social media. He wasn't. They said that he might not even play this week for getting conduct detrimental to them. Disciplinary reasons. But they said they took care of it in house, and he went off. So I think he's locked in now. I don't think he's gonna have any more problems. So give me Diego Pavia here.
All right, yeah. That was all weekend. Willie was feeling like he was a guy to pick up this week in a few leagues, including here in our waiver watch draft. So that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean they have Sam Houston State this week also. So I like I say, I was hoping he would last one more, but I didn't want J Mill to take Kyle Williams and then I'd be stuck, like Chuck, taking who he's going to end up with at wide receiver. So
right. I might surprise you. I don't know. He's in my short list.
All right. Well, you're up, by the way. So let's see who that might be.
Back around to me here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So with that said, I don't have to take receiver, so I guess I might as well go next at quarterback. And since I'm going to take one of these guys, I don't mind saying them both. I'm really having a tough time deciding, if I want to take Chandler Rogers and go with 2 North Texas guys. They're playing against Temple, but I also like the other guy the guy on the other side of that, which is EJ Warner versus North Texas, who just exploded with 472 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Pedigree.
Yeah, there's the pedigree. He struggled. He's just been an average quarterback, even though we gave him a lot of preseason hype. I feel like he's this is where he's going to begin to get into that stride that we thought he might have all season long. But I really do like what Chandler Rogers is doing. He's averaged 26.8 over his last 4 games as a starter there, as the true starter. And Warner just hasn't been as inconsistent. But I think since I've got Adi from North Texas, I don't want to double up on North Texas. So give me EJ Warner, who's just at 27%. I think a lot of people dumped him, and he might have been over 30 at one point, but I think he went back below it this week. If Fantrax is correct, I think he lost like 4 or 5%. And those people all did not benefit from, the 38.6 point game he had this week. So, yeah, I'll roll the dice in hopes that EJ Warner can do it again against North Texas, who's just kind of an average defense against the pass. And that gives me a lot of a fun game to watch there with Temple versus North Texas, since I've got 2 of those guys here in the waiver draft.
There you go. I like Warner. I think I was big like you guys were on him preseason. I don't know if there's enough weapons around him, but what he's doing pretty well with what's around him. Last 2 weeks he's kind of grown a little bit, and he had a big game against UTSA last week. So
yeah, it makes me feel like maybe they've figured it out. They do seem to have enough skill players. Maybe it's an O-line issue. I don't know. I haven't looked that close either, but it's a little bit of finger crossing here, thinking that he can. I don't think he's going to get 472 and 5 again, but just get me over 303 touchdowns, and I'll be happy. Yeah.
All right, so I don't have to take quarterback here, so I'm going to
like tic-tac-toe, trying to figure out here what to do.
Yes, I'm gonna wait a little bit. We talked about Holden Willis and all that, but I'm gonna go with the guy who's just on the rise. 2 weeks ago he had 11.3. Yesterday he had 21.3. He had 5 receptions, 103 and a touchdown. I don't believe that he's gonna, score 31.3, but I hope that he's going to be consistent here, and that's going to be Sean Brown out of Jacksonville State. They play Liberty. Sorry, Nino. He is 1% owned.
Yeah.
So like I said, I may be taking a chance. We don't know, but these last 2 weeks, he has been one of those guys, and that's, you want double digits from a tight end at this point. And so there aren't that many left, but this kid 1% owned, that needs to be higher. And so hopefully after this week, everyone else will see that he needs to be on some rosters.
Right. So Willie is advocating you all go out and at least get Sean Brown up to 5% rostered before next week. I love it. I thought when you had mentioned 31 points, I had started typing in David Martin Robinson. So now we'll see. Will Nino jump on David Martin Robinson? No, I'm
actually not going to. I'm going to let you have him because I know you had him last week.
Thank you, Nino. Thank you.
But look. And I wasn't going to take him. I was going to try to be different. So I've got my fingers crossed you're not going to take the guy. I have a feeling you're going to take the guy. Can I take a guess who you're going to take? All right. I think you're going to go Jake Johnson, Texas A&M.
No, I'm not. I'm going to go with a guy that I think coming out of the bye here, they're going to scheme him around him because the offensive line is absolute straight trash. So give me Trey Knox, South Carolina tight end. He's been getting peppered these last 2 weeks. For a tight end, he's got like 6 or 7 targets each week. He's been outside of Leggett and Juice Wells. He's been the other guy they're targeting the most. And like I said, that O-line is bad, real bad. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what do most quarterbacks like to target when they get no time to throw the ball? Tight end, because you can keep them close. I like Knox a lot. Plus, he's been actually their number 1 pass pro guy as well. So he can slide off the block and catch them late ones if for some reason they can't give him some protection.
Which also means they don't want him to come out of the game either. So he's gonna get a lot of snaps. Yeah. Who are they playing?
Florida. And Florida can be manhandled. Florida has it. They can be. If you can out physical them, you can get to them and dominate. So I like him. I like the guy from last night as well, but I kind of shied away. I like Tanner McLachlan. Is that his name?
McLaughlin or I know who you're talking about. Yeah. He's kind of hovered around there on my list also, and I've never taken him, but he is another one, which we do. We'll throw out a few more at the end of who we'll kind of compare who we've got left on our list, but that's a good one that people can keep on their radar. So all right, so it's up to me. I still don't have to go receiver. So look, I was showing my cards. I wanted him. That's why I was hoping you didn't take him. I'll take Jake Johnson, catching passes from his brother at A&M. Seems to be his one of his new favorites. He's again another guy who's his yearly average is 7.4, but he's had nearly 10 points or more in 3 of the last 4 games. And he had 14.5 this week. He had 11 in week 4. Their starter from the beginning of the season is out for the season. Looked like Jake Johnson was tight end 3. So even when the guy got hurt, he was going to be tight end 2 still. But he's basically ended up taking over the job there as the true tight end 1. He was our top true freshman tight end last year in terms of the expectations we set for him as far as his ability to be able to play quickly, whether it was last year or this year. He's helping us look good there as he's emerging into one of the better tight ends for fantasy, in my opinion, and one that you should definitely look to pick up because I think he's only going to see more and more targets. And he's a guy that's not going to come out of the game because he has the size to block as well. So there you go.
All right, not bad.
All right. Yeah, Willie, you get, as we said, it's a little interesting draft order here, but Willie, you get your last pick being in the middle.
Yeah, I had 6 tight ends. He was not on my list.
Okay.
So,
damn, Adam.
We talk about how we sometimes that's a good thing. We learn from each other here. We learn from each other.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. It's not to take a jab. It's just that he didn't make my cut. So,
didn't make the cut.
Right. So, But it is quarterback time.
Okay.
So we are going to go Jordan McLeod, James Madison.
He was third.
He is 9%. He's 9% owned. He had 27.7 points yesterday. Nope, I'm sorry, they had a bye. So their last game, I kind of like these guys who've been on byes. Get them rest up, get that preparation in. They go against Georgia Southern, who is 81st against quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And if not only now, but for the rest of the season, I mean, if you can find these guys under 30% and they can help you the next 3 or 4 weeks, that's what you want. There's a lot of green in the rest of his schedule. So
meaning on Fantrax, it's indicating he's playing a lot of weak pass defenses.
He was third on my list. I liked him a lot. I just when I had the opportunity to get Diego, I had to jump.
I got you. And Diego was first on my list, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, I've got. I'll talk about them later, but I've got 3 left on my quarterback list. So it'd be fun to kind of see who's left over here in a few minutes.
All right, so I got one spot left. That's the running back room. What's odd to me is I found is the guys that I had, 2 of the guys I had on my list are guys that are producing in kind of like a running back by committee. So I don't know if I'm going to take them guys. I like Hishaw Jr. out of Kansas, right? He did it against Texas last week, and he did it the week before, and that's with Devin Neal playing at full snap potential there. So he's a guy I like. I like Isaiah Ifanzi out of California, right? With and he's producing, he's scoring touchdowns. I like.
And by the way, I was watching late last night. I had him on a team. He was stuck at like 9.2 points for almost the entire second half. So I don't know if he got hurt. So that's something to keep an eye on. It's kind of look into like, why did Ott get stuck? I don't know. I don't know how he finished. We got to see if maybe he went out of the game because he literally didn't gain a point for like a quarter and a half to finish that game. So maybe your guy was doing good, or maybe Ott got hurt. But another reason maybe to dig into that Cal running back situation.
Exactly. Sure. And then now another guy I like it's kind of in a split is Jonah Coleman, who we saw late last night. In Arizona, but you got Wiley is the starter now. I think he's supposed to be coming back healthy next week. So I'm going to go with LJ Martin out of BYU as a freshman. Right, he's got 2 touchdowns in 2 out of the last 3 games. He's coming off a bye. He's getting TCU, who's 98th versus the run. So give me LJ Martin,
Okay. I like it. I mean, clearly Aiden Robbins wasn't what we thought he was going to be there, and this has become his backfield. So, I like
the red zone opportunity. I think just made him too spicy for me, and the fact that he's going to get majority of the carries out of what I had left, for my picks. So,
right, okay. Well, I'll finish this up here. I know Willie was almost certain I was going to go with Armstrong. From Arkansas because of his consistency. I mean, we laugh and we joke, but like, just look at the guy's last 4 or 5 games. It's literally 17 or 18 points all season long, which again, you need some consistency. You need the guy that is going to come through. But I'll talk through who I'm choosing him from. The 3 that I'm down to. I had Paysor from North Carolina here, who's left, going against Miami. He had 19 this week. He's only had 1 game under like 12.9 points. And then Theo Weiss from Missouri. He's not the only one there. Burden's not the only one there catching passes. But Weiss is playing against Kentucky. He'll be a little stronger on the defensive side. He has had 28 and 18 points the last 2 weeks with 21 targets, though. But I think Willie was right. I'm going to go with the Mr. Consistency. I haven't had him on my teams, but I'll throw him on there this week to try to get that guaranteed 17 points against Alabama. Let's go with Andrew Armstrong, KJ Jefferson's number 1 target. We know Raheem Sanders didn't look like he's going to do too much to take away from Armstrong getting some targets. We got to figure out what's going on with the Rocket there out of the backfield. But from what I saw, I'm not worried that they're going to lean on the run too heavily. And Armstrong, regardless, is going to get his 6 or 7 targets, get his yards. Maybe he won't get in the end zone, but I'll get that 17 or 18 points no matter what, even if it is Alabama. I'm not scared.
I would have gone Tyrone Howell, but you
from
do what you will.
Monroe? Is that Monroe?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right, you want to tell us why? And since we're to that part of the
Well,
draft,
I
we
mean,
can,
yeah,
unload the rest of our list.
my note is that they're playing Alabama and said, can he continue to be that consistent guy that you've been talking about? I'm gonna say no. And then
Right.
I saw what Texas State is doing on defense, and it's not very much. So I think Howell would bounce back and not just have 4 receptions. I think he would get back to the 8 that he had before. So I just think that he is a safer play as far as point potential
Right.
and having the pass. But we'll see what Armstrong
I
can
liked.
do.
What do you think, Nino? What do you think about the matchup against? Will it matter that they're playing Alabama, or is he just going to get his 5 or 6 or 7 catches?
He's going to get his 7 to 9 targets. I don't know if he's going to get the 5 to 7 receptions. The secondary for Alabama seems to be playing well, and now Dallas Turner seems like as though he's got locked in to get that pressure. So if you're going to be giving him left time, we'll have to see. Armstrong hasn't been doing it all year. The guy I had here that I thought you might have went on because you seem to be going on the edge of going out on a rope or going with the safer play was I like Lawrence Keys, third out of Tulane, coming off the bye, 5 straight double-digit games before the bye week there. Pratt likes to throw the ball around. He's coming off the bye. He's healthy now.
Right.
I know Memphis is good defensively, right? I think they're in the top 40 against the pass this year, but I just think that there's with a healthy Pratt in that game plan, I think he could be a weapon.
Yeah, and Keys has been kind of. It seems like he's getting picked up more and more, but he's still under 30. That's
right.
Pretty amazing. Then, yeah, that he's still eligible because I see people picking him up in every league every week, but somehow he's still managing to be under 30.
I think he's just a pick and drop. That's why.
Yeah,
I kept him off my list only because I was thinking that I was going to have to take their running back, Mekhi Hughes. And so that's why I kept him off the list, talking about the Tulane running back. So that's the reason why I left Keys off my list, because I felt I was going to have to take Hughes, which I did not have to. Hughes had a huge game, 22 carries, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns yesterday. But I didn't have to take him, but I understand the Keys. And I just don't think that I still don't think Armstrong it was the play for you though, Jeremy. But we'll see.
Yeah, no,
we'll see.
I like that I'm out here rolling the dice a little bit. You gotta try to move the ball and get it to somebody. And I think they're going to shut down Sanders before they shut down the passing game completely.
Well, I just think Saban's going to say Sanders hasn't done a damn thing all year to beat anybody.
That's what I was thinking.
I'm gonna play a coverage, and I'm gonna bring some heat off the edges and make I know KJ can take hits, right? KJ can take hits, but he's the only threat on the ground right now for them.
Right. I'll use your philosophy then and say at least he can move. Yes. He's mobile, and he'll be able to at least roll out and get the ball to Armstrong. I'm gonna find a reason to still take it. All right. So anybody remaining? You guys, we talked about the tight ends. I had all 4 of them. I had Martin Robinson, Sean Brown, Jake Johnson, Holden Willis. We've given.
I got a couple tight ends there that you guys didn't mention.
Yeah. Who do you got?
I like Terrence Ferguson for Oregon. I said that game against Washington is going to be big. The week prior, he had almost 13 fantasy points. And Washington's 89th versus the pass. I like Rivaldo Fairweather. He seems to be the only target really receiving wise for Auburn. I know that Thorne's kind of been using his legs more, but LSU's 126th against the pass versus tight ends, and I like Fairweather here. He's been doing pretty well. And then there's a guy that I thought you might have mentioned out of Marshall, Cade Conley, right? He had a touchdown last week against ODU.
Yeah, right. But let me update everybody there. Like I had warned Willie this week. Again, most people aren't sitting and watching the Marshall game closely. He didn't play this week. I had seen against Old Dominion, it looked like he was banged up. So it was kind of a classic college injury situation where you didn't see any notes on Fantrax. You didn't see anything mentioned to the press there down in West Virginia. He didn't play at all against North Carolina State. So looked like he's got like a leg situation where, he toughed it out against Old Dominion and finished the game. But you could tell the way he hobbled off the field a few times in that Old Dominion game, there might be some trouble. So I stayed away from him this week, and rightfully so. He ended up. They had the backup tight end there at Marshall. So keep an eye on the notes there because you may not even get any. So we just kind of got to wait and see when he reappears,
Gotcha.
for Marshall. Yeah.
And then the last guy I'll say as far as tight end is concerned, and we mentioned him earlier, and it's probably a crime that he didn't make our list this week, and that's Holden Willis. I mean, I still think that he needs to be picked up.
Yeah, he looked like he's definitely athletic. He's really an extra wide receiver. Middle Tennessee is going to throw the ball a lot, and he looks like one of the favorite targets there.
Yeah, and he does have that dual eligibility on Fantrax. So
right. So I'm going to move over to quarterbacks really quickly here. I did mention that Chandler Rogers is one that I kind of flipped a coin with. Which side of the coin are you going to go with there in that battle head to head with EJ Warner? I like Rogers, to be picked up maybe for the rest of the season the way he's doing. I think he's only going to get better and better. And again, 27 points in the 4 starts he's had on average. With 24 points this week as the low. That's the lowest he scored. Another interesting name, a little more off the radar, is Jack Turner from Louisiana Tech. He's taken over for Bachmeier at Louisiana Tech. He had 22 this week, 17 points in his first 2 starts. He was slowed down against UTEP with 10, but they're playing against Middle Tennessee, which is 127th against fantasy quarterbacks. So, Jack Turner could be kind of a deeper reach who's probably, less owned than anybody we've got on the boards this week. And then coming back around to Marshall, Nino, Cam Fancher looks like in conference play could be a problem for people or opposing defenses. He had a 300-yard game against a Power 5 school this week against North Carolina State. He's running for 50 to 100 yards a game, and he's as fast as any quarterback in the NCAA. I'll tell you that. He was a triple jump champion in high school. As the announcer said yesterday, without even practicing for the track team. And they're throwing the ball enough for him to get, 280 to 300 yards a game. So he's become a new Sun Belt dual threat quarterback to watch. They're going against Georgia State, who, is a pretty good team. It's going to be a good game this weekend. But I think in the Sun Belt play, Cam Fancher is one to keep an eye out for down the line, who's only 2% owned that you could get in really, really deeply.
I got one QB. I had Zeno on the list. I know you guys or whatever about him, but I got a QB that put up a stinker this week that I think is going to bounce back because he's been doing it pretty much all season because the defense is terrible. Braden Fowler Nicolosi from Colorado State.
Oh, yeah.
He's averaging close to 27 points per game fantasy-wise, and he gets Boise, who's 115th versus the pass. I know he put up 3 this week against Utah State with the 3 picks, which is gross, but I think he can have a bounce-back game. Another guy I had way down my list is you guys keep mentioning Middle Tennessee and how their defense is, team's defense is not very good. The offense has to put up points, and they usually have to throw the ball a lot. So we've seen it this week because he played in prime time. Nicholas Viatito, he had 400.
You should be able to say that one, Nino. Come on, you can do better than that.
I'm trying. Yeah.
Come on.
408 yards, 2 touchdowns versus the Gamecocks at Jacksonville State. He's only owned 6%. Right. He's a guy, if you're in a pickle, he might not be a bad guy you want to throw in there.
That's interesting. That's another fun shootout. That's kind of like that Temple North Texas game. That should be a fun one to watch if you like offense with Louisiana Tech and Middle Tennessee. Yep.
Well, I had only had 5 quarterbacks on my list, and we either drafted one or we talked about the other one, which is Zeno. So my last guy, and I'm gonna pick up this guy in a couple of places because he's only 9% on, and that's going to be Joey Aguilar from App State.
Yeah. Okay.
Decent numbers, so 23.7, 23.2, 28.9.
Is he getting it in the air or is he running some? I haven't really looked at his stats closely.
He's getting that in the air. I mean, he hasn't rushed for over 50 yards in any game. Okay. So, this is in the air is where he's getting this because he only has 1 rushing touchdown also.
Right. Because your mind thinking App State would go towards dual threat, but that is interesting that he's kind of a legitimate thrower.
Yeah, and so he had 1 down game, and that was against Wyoming. So Wyoming may be a little tougher than we think. The
defense is real.
So,
Willie's been good at spotting those quarterback defenses to stay away from. Obviously, Tulane was the first one we mentioned this year. Troy was the second. So I think we now have a new defense to stay away from when you're playing quarterbacks, which is Wyoming. because we saw what they did yesterday with the Fresno quarterbacks and shutting them down. And you mentioned Aguiar got shut down by Wyoming too. So.
Yeah, and then so after that Wyoming game, they bounced back before the bye, and they beat Louisiana Monroe 41-40, and he had 30.3 in that game before the bye.
Okay. Yeah, and that's another one. Like the Sun Belt is the new max, so go get your Sun Belt quarterbacks. I'll throw one last name out there because we it's hard to kind of ever hone in on these service academy guys, but there's a guy named Alex Teza, Tecza, who seems to be emerging in the same way that Michelle's kind of become the guy at Air Force. Navy seems to have found their guy in the backfield. Alex Teza, Tecza. I don't know if I'm even getting close on that pronunciation, but he's averaged 13 for the season, but he's had 22 plus points in 2 out of his last 3, including 26 this week. And he's averaging 15 carries in the last 3 games. So he seems to be your volume guy at Navy, which is, a fairly good team to have the guy that's getting the carries. They tend to run the ball quite a bit, and why not go grab the number 1 guy there? Get you your rare Navy guy. Why not? Throw a service academy a bone there. That's it for me.
Yeah, he's 2% owned, so I mean, he was on my list for sure. Right. And why do you think people are steering away from Henry Parrott Jr.?
What are they even doing out there?
I don't know. I didn't see. I was too busy with other games. How did he do yesterday? I know he had the big game before the bye. How did he do to follow up like his 25-point game pre-bye?
Not very well. I mean, he had 13.4. He had 17 carries for 48 yards and a touchdown. So
the inconsistency then would be your answer.
I would stay away from anybody on Miami going forward after that because I think these kids are going to be out on Cristobal in general.
Yeah, mentally, my youngest described what happened at the end of that game. I guess they fought their way back, and then they had some really bad time
48 seconds to go. You got the ball, and the other team has no timeouts. You just kneel.
Yeah. Right. And they ended up trying to be too smart for their own good and gave the ball back.
I mean, is he like literally just trying to get himself fired since they won't fire him?
Seems like it.
I mean, I don't get that.
It's not the first time he did it though. He did it in Oregon too. So.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that keeps getting jobs, and we don't know why. So
there you go.
Maybe we'll leave. Let's get him back to. He was a good coordinator. Let him do that. But for now, guys, we don't like to go too much over an hour. This is you kept us right there. Nino, we thank you so much. It's been great.
Appreciate it.
And we are going to try to attempt some type of semifinal round if you can get into that top 6.
I'm with it.
So we'll be rooting for you because we'd love to have you back in one of those semifinal rounds for week 8, 9, or 10. Join us one more time. And maybe we'll see you on your side of the podcast world here soon too.
Yeah. So with that, Nino, you need to score 84.9.
I feel comfortable. That 6. I feel comfortable.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think he's got a good shot too. He took a few of our guys, so and with 3 teams here, it should be close. We should all.
And I love that Tootin pick. By the way,
thank you, sir.
Yeah. All right. So Nino, any parting words?
It's on, fellas. It's on. I'm coming.
All right.
He's coming for us. All right. Well, with that, and it's 1:00. We're right on time to go watch some NFL. Willie B, what do you have to say?
Thank you for watching and listening. Good luck this week.